Whiskers, Whiskers, oh no, oh no, oh no, where is she? I let her out of the bedroom this morning and now I can't find her anywhere. Whiskers. Okay, think Emily. Where would a cat hide? Under the bed? No, not there. In the closet? Nope. Oh God, what if she got into the laundry room? What if she climbed into the dryer and I didn't see her and no, I didn't do laundry today. But what if she's in there anyway? Whiskers, come here, baby. Okay, kitchen. Maybe she's in a cabinet. I read this story once about a cat that got trapped in a kitchen cabinet and, Whiskers, are you in here? Oh God, the oven. What if she somehow got into the oven? I know it's closed, but cats can be so sneaky and no, that's crazy, right? But I should check, just to be sure. Wait, I hear voices. Cora, Gianna, oh thank God you're here. I can't find Whiskers anywhere and I'm starting to panic. She could be trapped somewhere or hurt or…
Whoa, Emily, slow down. When did you last see her?
This morning when I let her out of the bedroom. But that was hours ago and she always comes when I call her and she's not coming. And what if something terrible happened?
Okay, let's think systematically. What are all the places a cat could potentially get trapped or hurt in this house?
See, this is why I need you two. You're good at thinking of all the possibilities.
Right, so obviously we need to check the washer and dryer first. Cats love warm, enclosed spaces, and those are death traps.
In any cabinets or closets she might have gotten locked in. Also behind the refrigerator, they can slip back there and get stuck.
Oh God, behind the refrigerator. I didn't think of that. What if she's been back there this whole time, unable to get out?
Okay, you check the laundry room. I'll check all the cabinets, and Gianna can look behind appliances.
Wait, we should also check the garage. If she somehow got out there, she could be trapped, or worse, what if she got outside and the neighbor's dog…
Don't say it. Duke is huge and he's killed rabbits before and Whiskers is so small and…
Emily, focus. We're going to find her. Let's just search systematically.
Whiskers. Whiskers, where are you? I'm checking the washing machine. Empty. Dryer, oh God, what if she's in here and I just can't see her?
I'm looking behind the fridge. It's really dusty back here, but no cat. Emily, did you check under the couch?
Yes, that was the first place I looked. What about the pantry? Could she have gotten locked in the pantry?
I'm checking all the kitchen cabinets. Nope, no cat. But there are so many places a small cat could hide.
What about the attic access? If she somehow got up there, she could be lost in the insulation or…
The attic. Why didn't I think of that? She could have fallen through the ceiling or gotten trapped up there with no way down.
Okay, I'm getting the stepladder. Emily, keep calling her name.
Whiskers. Baby, where are you? Mommy's so scared. What if she's hurt and can't meow back? What if she's unconscious somewhere?
I'm checking the basement now. If she fell down the stairs, she could be injured and unable to move.
Nothing in the attic access. But Emily, what about your bedroom? I know you said you let her out, but did you check under the bed really thoroughly?
Yes, I think so. I looked under there. But maybe I should check again? What if she's wedged somewhere I can't see her?
Coming up from the basement, no cat down there either. This is really strange. Indoor cats don't just disappear.
That's what I'm afraid of. Something terrible must have happened. What if she got outside somehow? What if she's lost and scared and doesn't know how to get home?
Emily, when was the last time you opened an outside door?
This morning when I got the mail. But I was only outside for like 30 seconds and she was in the bedroom then.
What about windows? Could she have pushed out a screen?
Oh no, I opened the living room window earlier for fresh air. What if she pushed out the screen and fell 2 stories? What if she's lying hurt in the bushes right now?
Okay, I'm going to go check outside while you two keep looking inside.
Wait, Cora, before you go, do you think I should call the vet or animal control? How long do you wait before you report a missing cat?
Emily, let's find her first before we start making emergency calls.
You're right. Whiskers, come here, baby. Where could she possibly… Oh my God.
What? Did you find her?
She's right there on the couch. She's been sleeping on the couch this entire time.
Are you serious?
She's literally just napping in plain sight on her favorite cushion. How did we not see her?
Because we were so busy looking in all the dramatic, scary places that we didn't check the most obvious place.
She's not even hidden. She's just sleeping peacefully while we tore apart your house looking for her.
Whiskers, you scared Mommy so much. Why didn't you come when I called you?
Probably because she was sleeping, and cats are notoriously good at ignoring humans when they don't feel like responding.
I feel so stupid. I was convinced something terrible had happened and she was just napping the whole time.
This is like the perfect metaphor for anxiety, isn't it? We're so focused on all the catastrophic possibilities that we miss the simple, obvious explanation.
Okay, so if you just listened to that and you're now checking on your own pets to make sure they haven't disappeared into some household death trap, we totally understand.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cora, and yes, I just spent 10 minutes helping Emily search for a cat that was napping 3 feet away from where we started looking.
I'm Gianna, and I'm the one who suggested checking behind the refrigerator and in the attic for a cat who was literally sleeping in the most obvious spot in the living room.
And I'm Emily, proud owner of Whiskers, who is apparently much better at relaxing than I am. Welcome to What Me Worry, Episode 4, where we explore the fascinating ways our brains skip over simple explanations in favor of catastrophic ones.
The thing about what just happened is that it's such a perfect example of how anxiety works. We had a missing piece of information, where was the cat, and instead of considering boring explanations, we immediately jumped to disasters.
Right? The most likely explanation for a missing indoor cat is that it's sleeping somewhere you haven't looked yet. But our brains went straight to dryer accidents and neighbor dog attacks.
And once we started down that path, we kept finding more and more creative ways the cat could be in danger. We were like disaster brainstorming machines.
It's like anxiety makes us allergic to simple explanations. Cat's missing? Obviously trapped in the attic, not just napping.
This happens to me constantly. I lose my keys and immediately assume someone broke into my car. I can't reach a friend on the phone and assume they've been in an accident.
Oh God, the phone thing is so real. If someone doesn't text me back within a reasonable amount of time, I start imagining worst-case scenarios.
But why do our brains do this? Why do we skip over the boring, likely explanations and jump straight to the dramatic ones?
I think it's because dramatic explanations feel more important and urgent. If my friend doesn't text back because they're busy, that doesn't require any action from me. But if they don't text back because they're hurt, then I need to do something.
So anxiety tricks us into thinking that by imagining catastrophes, we're being responsible and prepared.
When really, we're just making ourselves miserable over things that probably have totally mundane explanations.
And it's not just missing cats and unreturned texts. We do this with everything. Weird noise in the car. Obviously, the engine is about to explode, not just a loose heat shield.
Headache that lasts 2 days? Brain tumor, not dehydration or stress.
Boss wants to see you in their office? You're getting fired, not getting a new project assignment.
It's like we've trained ourselves to expect the worst possible outcome in every uncertain situation.
But here's what I'm realizing. Most of the time, the simple explanation is the right one. Whiskers was just sleeping. My friend was just busy. The weird noise was just a minor car thing.
Right. Like, how many times have you been convinced something terrible was happening and it turned out to be completely normal?
For me, honestly, almost every time, but I keep falling for it.
So today we're going to talk about this pattern. Why do we do it, and how can we train ourselves to consider boring explanations first instead of last?
We'll dig into what I'm calling catastrophic creativity, how our brains get really good at inventing dramatic scenarios.
And we'll talk about something called Occam's razor, which is basically the idea that the simplest explanation is usually the right one.
Plus, we'll talk to Miles from Florida, who called about a work situation that he's convinced means he's about to get fired.
But first, let's acknowledge something. Sometimes our catastrophic thinking is right. Sometimes the simple explanation isn't the correct one.
That's true. Bad things do happen, and sometimes our worst fears do come true.
But the question is, what percentage of the time are we right versus wrong when we jump to catastrophic conclusions?
In my experience, I'm wrong about 90% of the time, maybe more.
Same. Most of my disasters turn out to be false alarms.
So if we're wrong most of the time, maybe it's worth trying a different approach. Maybe we could start with simple explanations and work our way up to catastrophes if needed.
Instead of starting with catastrophes and then being surprised when things turn out to be normal.
It sounds logical when you put it that way. But in the moment, when I'm worried about something, the catastrophic explanation always feels more believable.
Right. Because anxiety doesn't speak logic, it speaks fear and urgency.
So we need to practice speaking logic back to it, even when it feels wrong.
Like, next time I can't find my keys, I could try checking the couch cushions before assuming someone stole my car.
And next time someone doesn't text me back, I could assume they're busy before assuming they're dead in a ditch.
Revolutionary concepts, really.
Hey, if it was easy, we wouldn't need a whole podcast about it.
True, but maybe we can get a little bit better at it.
Starting with remembering that cats sleep approximately 18 hours a day and are excellent at ignoring humans.
Whiskers certainly proved that today. Let's talk about what I'm calling catastrophic creativity, how our anxious brains become really, really good at inventing elaborate disaster scenarios.
Like how we went from missing cat to trapped in appliances, fallen from windows, and eaten by neighbor dogs in about 30 seconds.
It's actually kind of impressive how quickly we can generate multiple catastrophic explanations for a single uncertain situation.
Right? If we used that same creative energy for literally anything else, we'd probably be really successful.
But why does our brain default to the most dramatic possible explanation? Like, what's the evolutionary advantage of assuming the worst?
Well, back when we were hunter-gatherers, it was probably better to assume that rustling in the bushes was a predator rather than just wind. Better to be wrong and alive than right and dead.
So our brains are still running on ancient software that treats every uncertainty like a potential life or death situation.
Which would be fine if we were still dodging saber-toothed tigers, but less helpful when we're trying to figure out why our cat isn't responding to her name.
The problem is that modern life gives us way more uncertain situations than our ancestors had, but our brains still react to all of them like they're survival threats.
And uncertainty is everywhere now. Why hasn't my friend texted back? What did my boss mean by that comment? Why does my car sound different today?
And for each uncertain situation, anxiety brain immediately generates the most dramatic possible explanation.
It's like we have an internal disaster movie screenwriter who's working overtime.
But here's what I've learned in therapy. There's actually a principle called Occam's razor that suggests the simplest explanation is usually the right one.
What does that look like in practice?
Like, if I haven't heard from a friend in a few days, the simplest explanation is that they're busy or forgot to respond, not that they hate me or something terrible happened to them.
That makes sense logically, but it feels so much less important than the dramatic explanations.
Exactly. Simple explanations don't trigger our fight or flight response, so they don't feel urgent or important.
But maybe that's actually a good thing. Like, maybe if an explanation doesn't make us feel panicky, that's a sign it's probably the right one.
So instead of looking for explanations that justify our anxiety, we could look for explanations that reduce it.
I've been trying to practice this. When I catch myself catastrophizing, I ask myself, what's the most boring possible explanation for this situation?
Give me an example.
Like, last week, my landlord sent me a text saying, we need to talk. My immediate thought was that I was being evicted or that something was wrong with my lease.
What was the boring explanation?
That he needed to schedule the annual heating system inspection, which is exactly what it turned out to be.
But in the moment, the eviction scenario felt more believable.
Way more believable, because it explained why I felt anxious about the text, whereas the heating inspection didn't.
So we're basically looking for explanations that match our emotional state, rather than explanations that match the actual evidence.
Right. If I feel scared, I look for scary explanations. But the feeling might not be based on the actual situation.
This is hard, though, because sometimes our intuition is right. Sometimes that feeling that something is wrong actually means something is wrong.
True, but how often? Like, what's your track record with catastrophic predictions?
Honestly, pretty terrible. I can think of maybe 1 or 2 times in my life when my worst case scenario actually happened.
Same. Most of the time, I'm creating elaborate stress about things that turn out to be completely normal.
So maybe the question is, how do we honor our intuition without letting catastrophic thinking run our lives?
I think it's about gathering more information before jumping to conclusions. Like, instead of assuming my landlord wants to evict me, I could just ask what he wants to talk about.
But that feels so vulnerable. What if the answer is something bad?
Well, if it is something bad, I'll find out either way. But if it's something normal, I save myself days of unnecessary stress.
Plus, most people are pretty straightforward about serious issues. If your landlord wanted to evict you, he'd probably just say that, not send a mysterious, "we need to talk" text.
That's a good point. Like, if someone has bad news to deliver, they usually don't make it a guessing game.
Right. And if someone is being vague, it's probably because the issue is routine and not worth making a big dramatic announcement about.
So maybe we could use the level of drama in how someone communicates as a clue about how dramatic the actual situation is.
Like, if my boss sends me a casual, "can we chat when you have a minute" message, it's probably not your fired news.
Exactly. Because firing someone is serious enough that most managers would be more formal about setting up that conversation.
This is actually really helpful. I think I've been treating all uncertain communications like they're hiding terrible news.
Same. Like, if someone doesn't immediately tell me why they want to talk to me, I assume it's because the reason is too awful to say directly.
But most of the time, people are just being polite or casual, not building suspense for a dramatic revelation.
So maybe we could practice assuming that vague communications are about boring, routine things, unless we have specific evidence otherwise.
And what about situations where we can't get more information, like weird symptoms or strange noises?
I think the same principle applies. Start with the most common, boring explanations and work your way up to dramatic ones if the evidence supports it.
Like, weird noise in your car is probably something minor that needs attention, not catastrophic engine failure.
And a headache is probably dehydration or tension, not a brain tumor.
And your cat is probably just sleeping somewhere you haven't looked yet.
The goal isn't to never consider serious possibilities, it's just to consider them in proportion to their actual likelihood.
And to remember that our emotional reaction to uncertainty doesn't tell us anything about what's actually happening.
Right. Just because something makes us feel scared doesn't mean it's actually scary.
Though this is way easier to understand intellectually than it is to practice when you're actually in an anxious spiral.
True, but maybe if we practice it enough, it becomes more automatic.
Like training our brains to reach for simple explanations first instead of catastrophic ones.
It's revolutionary.
So we've talked about how our brains generate catastrophic explanations, but let's dig into why simple explanations feel so unsatisfying to anxiety brain.
Right, like even after we found Whiskers sleeping on the couch, part of me was like, but what if she had actually been in danger and we just got lucky?
That's such a good point. Anxiety brain doesn't want to accept that sometimes there's no drama, no danger, no hidden meaning.
It's like we're addicted to the idea that there must be more to the story. Simple explanations feel incomplete somehow.
I think it's because anxiety makes everything feel urgent and important. So when the explanation turns out to be boring, it's like our brain can't accept that all that adrenaline was for nothing.
Plus, if I accept that the cat was just sleeping, then I have to admit that I worked myself into a panic over literally nothing.
And that feels embarrassing. Like, it's almost easier to believe there was some hidden danger than to admit we overreacted.
But here's what I'm learning. Overreacting to a non-threat is actually not a character flaw. It's just how anxiety works.
What do you mean?
Like, our brains are designed to err on the side of caution. In the wild, it was better to assume danger and be wrong than to miss real danger and be dead.
So we're not broken for jumping to worst-case scenarios. We're just using outdated survival software for modern problems.
But modern problems usually don't require immediate fight or flight responses. Missing cats, unreturned texts, weird noises, these things can usually wait for more information.
Exactly. But anxiety brain treats them all like they need to be solved right now before something terrible happens.
And when you're in that urgent state, simple explanations feel like you're not taking the situation seriously enough.
Like, if my car is making a weird noise, it's probably just something minor. Feels irresponsible compared to, the engine is about to explode and I need to pull over immediately.
But most of the time, car noises are minor things. Most missing cats are just sleeping. Most unreturned calls are just people being busy.
So how do we train ourselves to consider these boring possibilities first instead of last?
I've been practicing what I call the boring explanation challenge. When I notice myself catastrophizing, I force myself to come up with 3 mundane explanations before I allow myself to think about dramatic ones.
Give me an example.
Like, if a friend doesn't respond to my text for a day, I have to think 1, they're busy with work. 2, they saw it but forgot to respond. 3, their phone died or they're dealing with some minor life stuff.
And only after you think of those can you consider the dramatic explanations.
Right? And usually by the time I've thought of 3 boring reasons, the dramatic ones seem less likely.
That's smart, because it forces you to spend mental energy on realistic possibilities instead of immediately jumping to catastrophes.
I like that. It's like training your brain to be curious about normal explanations instead of just accepting that everything is a disaster.
And here's the thing. Even when something actually is wrong, starting with simple explanations doesn't hurt anything. You'll figure out the real problem either way.
Right. Like, if your car noise actually is something serious, it'll become obvious pretty quickly. You don't need to panic about it immediately.
And if your friend actually is upset with you, avoiding that possibility for a day while you consider other options isn't going to make it worse.
Plus, most of the time when you do find out what's really going on, you realize how much energy you wasted on the wrong explanations.
Like how we spent all that time looking for whiskers and appliances when she was just napping in plain sight.
Right. And all that searching didn't make her any safer. It just made us stressed and exhausted.
So maybe the goal isn't to never consider bad possibilities. It's just to consider them in proportion to how likely they actually are.
Instead of considering them in proportion to how scared they make us feel.
Because our fear level is not actually a good indicator of probability.
Exactly. Just because something scares me doesn't mean it's likely to happen.
And just because something is boring doesn't mean it's not the right answer.
Sometimes the most anticlimactic explanation is the most accurate one.
Like cats sleeping on couches instead of being trapped in household appliances.
Revolutionary concept, really.
Who knew that the simplest explanation could actually be simple?
Time for our guest segment, where we talk to someone dealing with their own catastrophic thinking spiral. Today we're talking to Miles from Florida. Miles, thanks for calling in.
Hey, thanks for having me. So my situation is about work. My boss scheduled a meeting with me for next week and just said it was to discuss my role. Now I'm convinced I'm about to get fired.
Oh no, that's such a classic anxiety spiral starter. Tell us more about what's going through your head.
Well, first of all, why would he be vague about it? If it was good news, wouldn't he just say, let's talk about your promotion or whatever? The fact that he's being mysterious makes me think he's trying to soften the blow.
That's interesting logic. So you're interpreting the vagueness as evidence of bad news?
Exactly. Plus, I've been thinking about every interaction I've had with him lately, and I keep finding things that could be signs he's unhappy with my work.
Like what kind of things?
Like, last week, he walked past my desk and didn't say good morning. And in our team meeting on Friday, he didn't ask for my input on a project like he usually does.
Okay, but Miles, let me ask you this. Did you say good morning to him when he walked past?
Well, no, I was on a phone call. But still, he usually nods or waves or something.
And in the team meeting, is it possible he didn't ask for your input because the project wasn't in your area, or because he was running short on time?
I mean, maybe. But it felt different. Like he was avoiding involving me in things.
Miles, this sounds exactly like what we were just talking about. You're looking for evidence to support the scary explanation instead of considering boring alternatives.
But what if I'm right, though? What if all these little signs are adding up to something real?
That's always possible. But here's a question. How many times in your life had you been convinced someone was mad at you or planning to fire you and it turned out to be wrong?
Honestly, most times. I do this a lot. But this time feels different.
They always feel different when you're in the middle of them. That's how anxiety works.
Miles, let's try the boring explanation challenge. Can you think of 3 mundane reasons why your boss might want to discuss your role?
I guess he could be reorganizing the team and wants to talk about new responsibilities.
That's one. What else?
Maybe there's a new project coming up and he wants to see if I'm interested, or maybe it's just my annual review period and he's being formal about it.
Those all sound way more likely than firing, don't they?
I mean, when I say them out loud, yeah. But in my head, the firing scenario feels more believable.
Because the firing scenario explains why you feel anxious about the meeting, but the anxiety might not be based on the actual meeting content.
Right. Like maybe you feel anxious because uncertain meetings always make you anxious, not because this specific meeting is actually threatening.
That's possible. I do hate when people are vague about what they want to talk about.
Most people do. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean the uncertain thing is automatically bad.
Miles, has your boss ever fired someone before? Like, do you know how he handles those situations?
Actually, yeah. When he let someone go last year, he was really straightforward about it. He called it a termination meeting and had HR there.
So he doesn't seem like the type to use euphemisms or build suspense around bad news.
No, he's usually pretty direct, which I guess makes the vague, discuss your role thing less ominous.
Right. If he wanted to fire you, he'd probably just say he needed to meet with you about a personnel matter or something formal like that.
And discuss your role actually sounds like it could be about expanding or changing your responsibilities, not eliminating them.
You know what? You're right. I think I've been creating a whole dramatic narrative when the reality is probably much more boring.
That's the goal, to get comfortable with boring realities instead of always expecting drama.
So what should I do between now and the meeting to not drive myself crazy?
Well, you could ask for more details about what he wants to discuss. Most managers are fine with clarifying the agenda.
Or you could just remind yourself that you'll find out what it's about when you find out, and worrying about it beforehand doesn't change anything.
And maybe practice the boring explanation challenge whenever you catch yourself catastrophizing about it.
That makes sense. I think I've been treating uncertainty like it's automatically bad news.
Most of us do that. But uncertainty is just uncertainty. It's not inherently good or bad.
Thanks, that actually helps a lot. I feel like I can stop spiraling about this now.
All right, everyone, homework time. This week, we're doing the simple explanation challenge.
Next time you find yourself catastrophizing about an uncertain situation, come up with 3 boring, mundane explanations before you allow yourself to consider dramatic ones.
Write them down if you have to. The goal is to train your brain to be curious about normal possibilities instead of immediately jumping to disasters.
And notice how different it feels to consider simple explanations first versus catastrophic ones first.
Remember, just because something scares you doesn't mean it's likely, and just because something is boring doesn't mean it's not the right answer.
Your anxiety level is not a good indicator of actual probability.
Most missing cats are just sleeping somewhere obvious. Most vague work meetings are about normal work stuff. Most unreturned texts are just people being busy.
Before we go, let's check in on Whiskers one more time.
She's still on the couch, still napping, completely unaware that she caused a household emergency earlier.
Living her best life while we learned a valuable lesson about anxiety and simple explanations.
Thanks for listening to What Me Worry. I'm Emily.
I'm Cora.
I'm Gianna.
And I'm Miles, and I'm going to stop assuming my boss wants to fire me.
We believe in you, Miles.
This was an AI scripted voice drama for entertainment and informational purposes only. If you're in crisis or need professional help, please call 988 or contact your local emergency services.
And remember, sometimes the most obvious explanation is the right one.
Even when it's not nearly as dramatic as your anxiety brain wants it to be.